Welcome to the deep dive. So you've sent us some really interesting stuff this time. We've got these transcripts from the Soak channel on YouTube, and they're all looking at Studio Ghibli films. Stuff like Spirited Away, Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle, Kiki's Delivery Service. We're going to use these to kind of dig into how Ghibli tells stories and, well, how different that is from the usual Hollywood way.
Yeah, absolutely. And the aim here is really to give you, our listeners, a bit of a fresh look, a new perspective maybe on films you already love, but also on storytelling in general. We want to pull out those core differences in Ghibli's approach, maybe give you a few of those aha moments.
Okay, yeah, let's just dive right in with an example to show what we mean. Think about a typical Hollywood scene. Someone goes to a vending machine, right? Puts the money in, selects their soda, and bam, the machine eats the money or the drink gets stuck. Instant conflict.
Right. And the scene then focuses on, how do they solve that problem?
Yeah.
Shaking the machine, getting help, whatever, getting the reward. But now think about how that might play out using this Japanese structure. The sources mention Kishotenketsu. So the person walks up, gets their drink, no problem. And then maybe they just sit down and enjoy it. Or perhaps a friend comes along, they share a moment.
Okay, so the focus shifts completely.
Yeah, it's less about the obstacle and more about just observing a change or an interaction unfolding. It immediately shows that difference in priority, conflict versus something else.
Right, change or flow. And that brings us to this Kishotenketsu structure. Seems pretty key to understanding Ghibli. So what actually is it? How does it work?
Okay, so it's a four-part thing. You've got Kitor, that's your introduction, sets the scene, the characters.
Okay, I got it.
Then Sho, that's the development. Things start happening, we learn more, the story unfolds.
Development, sure. Makes sense.
Then comes Ten. This is the interesting one. It's a twist or a turn. But crucially, it's often something unexpected that doesn't necessarily follow directly from the show. It introduces a new angle, maybe.
So not like a plot twist that escalates the main problem.
Not always, no. It can feel a bit tangential sometimes in Western. And finally, Ketsu. That's the conclusion. It draws things together, but maybe not with a big problem-solved bow. It's often more about reaching a new state, a kind of resolution or understanding.
Okay, so Ki, Sho, Ten, Ketsu, intro, development, unexpected turn, conclusion. And the driving force isn't necessarily building conflict towards a big showdown.
Exactly. It's often more about depicting change, the flow of events, how characters adapt or situations evolve. That's why Ghibli films can feel, different in their pacing and structure. Understanding this framework really helps you appreciate why they feel that way without getting totally lost in theory.
Let's make it concrete. Spirited Away. Everyone loves it, but it definitely doesn't follow that standard hero beats villain path. How does Kishotenketsu apply there?
Okay, Spirited Away. The key is pretty clear. Kihiro's initial unhappiness, her sadness about moving, that whole car journey, it sets up her initial state.
Right, resistant to change, kind of sullen.
Then Sho, the development. They wander into the spirit world. Parents break the rules, turn into pigs. Big change. And Chihiro is suddenly forced to work at the bathhouse, navigating this totally alien environment. That's the development phase.
Yeah, learning the ropes, meeting characters like Haku and Lin. Now, where's the 10, the twist? Because like you said, there isn't one single bad guy driving everything.
And that is the twist, in a way. The 10 here is precisely the lack of a central antagonist, Yubaba. She's formidable, sure, but she's basically running a business, enforcing rules. She's not mere evil, no faith. His actions create chaos, but it comes from loneliness, a desire for connection, not malice. He doesn't understand. Even Zinaba, Yubaba's twin, who seems scary at first, turns out to be, quite kind and grandmotherly.
Right.
So the unexpected turn, the 10, is that the main obstacle isn't a person to defeat. It's the system itself. It's the rules of the spirit world. Chihiro has to learn to navigate that.
I see. It's about understanding and adapting, not fighting a villain. That feels very different from, say, Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader.
Totally different. And that leads to the Ketsu, the conclusion. Chihiro succeeds. She gets her parents back. They return to the car. But notice how it ends.
Yeah, the car's covered in dust and leaves, suggesting time passed differently. And her parents, they don't remember a thing.
Exactly. There's no big celebration, no external proof for them. The Ketsu focuses almost entirely on Chihiro's internal change. She's faced her fears, learned to work, become independent. We see it, Lynn pointed out earlier. That's the resolution, her growth.
So the end emphasizes her transformation, even if the outside world for her parents snaps back to normal. That's really interesting. It leaves you thinking about what she carries forward.
Precisely. It's subtle but powerful. And this idea of complexity, of moving beyond simple good versus evil, really sets us up for Princess Mononoke.
Mononoke, which, as the source material points out, even the title can mean monster princess, depending on who's talking. That definitely signals complexity from the start.
Absolutely. And the core instruction Ashitaka receives early on is to see with eyes unclouded. That's basically the film's mission statement for the audience, too. He's cursed, he travels, and he constantly encounters people and forces with understandable yet deeply conflicting goals.
And he refuses to just pick a side, doesn't he? People keep asking him whose side he's on.
And his struggle to answer that is the point. Take Lady Eboshi. She runs Irontown. On one hand, yes, she's destroying the forest, clear-cutting trees, fighting the animal gods.
It's pretty bad.
But she's also creating a refuge for people cast out by society. Lepers, former brothel workers. She gives them work, dignity, community. Remember that line from The Leper? Something like, life is suffering, but still we wish to live. That really complicates how you see her.
It really does. She's not just a greedy industrialist. Her motives are mixed. Protective, even.
And then there's San, the Princess Mononoke, raised by wolves, fiercely protective of the forest, hates humans. Understandable, given what she's seen. But then she develops feelings for Ashitaka, a human. It challenges her own rigid views. The Irontown folks just see her as a monster, though. Easy label.
So everyone's got their reasons, their perspective. What about the forest spirit, the deer god?
Another layer of complexity. It represents life and death, balance. But initially, most characters, humans, and even some spirits, just see it as something powerful to be controlled or feared. There's that moment Kuroku, one of the Irontown men, realizes, I didn't know the deer god makes the flowers bloom. A sudden shift in understanding.
Seeing with unclouded eyes.
Exactly. And then you have Jikubo, the monk. He seems to be manipulating everyone, stirring up conflict to get the deer god's head for the emperor. He kind of represents maybe those who profit from division itself.
So no easy answers there either.
None at all. The ending suggests maybe, just maybe, humans and nature can find a way. Eboshi wants to build a good village this time. Ashitaka chooses to stay to help bridge the gap. But it's fragile. It acknowledges suffering as part of life. Jiko mentions it, the leper mentions it, but insists on the value of living, of striving. It asks a lot more of the viewer than just rooting for one side.
Okay, so this theme of complexity, of looking deeper than surface appearances, continues. What about Howl's moving castle? That one feels like it dives into identity and love.
Oh, absolutely. Howl's is steeped in duplicity, but maybe not always in a negative way. Howl himself uses all these different names, Pendragon, Jenkins, and personas. It's partly self-protection, a way to avoid being controlled by Madame Solomon or the King, or even the Witch of the Waste.
It's like he's trying to stay free by never being pinned down, something we all kind of do, maybe, in smaller ways.
Probably. And the castle itself, right. Always changing, shifting, a bit chaotic inside, but magical outside. It's a perfect metaphor for Howl.
Yeah, that makes sense. He's this powerful wizard, but also deeply insecure and almost childlike sometimes.
Exactly. He's a bundle of contradiction. And the film really explores different kinds of love within that context. You've got the Witch of the Waste's love, which is possessive, consuming. Madame Solomon's motives seem tied to control and patriotism, maybe. But then there's Sophie.
Sophie's love feels different.
Totally different. It's transformative because she sees all of Howl's contradictions, the powerful wizard, the scared boy, the charming guy, the monster, and accepts all of it. Her love pierces through his defenses, not by demanding he change, but by embracing who he is.
That line, I don't care if you're a monster, I love you, that feels like the core of it.
It really is. It's radical acceptance.
Yeah.
And that acceptance helps create this found family in the cast. Howl, Sophie, Markle, Calcifer, eventually Heen the dog, even the depowered witch. In that space, people can start dropping their own pretenses. Like, Markle doesn't need his old man disguise as much. Calcifer chooses to stay, even when freed.
Right. Even Howl seems surprised, asking Calcifer why he let Sophie and the others in. Like he's realizing his own need for connection.
Yeah. And Sophie's magic in the film, it's not really about spells, is it? It's the power of her empathy, her kindness, her nurturing spirit that fundamentally changes the dynamics and heals those connections. It's love as the force that cuts through the lies and fears.
Okay, fascinating. Love is the antidote to duplicity. Now, Kiki's delivery service feels like a shift again. It's much gentler, almost optimistic.
Yeah, it really is. And the sources highlight this contrast quite strongly, especially with, say, older Disney films that often feature orphans, wicked stepmothers, clear villains. Kiki presents a world that is, well, fundamentally pretty kind and supportive.
Right from the start, her parents just trust her to go off on her own at 13. That feels different.
It does. And then she gets to the town, and almost immediately Osono, the baker, takes her in, gives her a place to stay, helps her start her business. And most people she meets are genuinely helpful, or at least polite.
Yeah, it's almost startlingly nice. The source mentions people might find it unrealistic, but maybe that says more about what we're used to seeing in stories.
Could be. The film seems to argue that kindness often does exist. It ripples outward. Osono is kind to Kiki. Kiki tries her best for her customers. That lady pays her fairly. The old woman bakes her a cake in return for her help. Even the dog Jeff protects Gigi. It's like kindness begets kindness.
And crucially, there's no real villain plotting against.
Not at all. Bad things happen, sure, like she gets caught in the rain, or that one granddaughter is a bit rude initially.
But even that gets explained later, right? It wasn't malicious.
Exactly. It comes from a misunderstanding or just circumstance. The focus is never on demonizing someone, but more on understanding different situations or perspectives.
So what's Kiki's actual struggle then, if the world is kind?
It's internal. Her main crisis is losing her match, and the film links that directly to her losing confidence, feeling unsure of her place, maybe comparing herself to others, feeling, I don't know, uninspired or not girly enough.
Ugh, like artist's block almost.
Yeah. And Ursula, the painter friend she makes, gives her exactly that kind of advice. You know, sometimes you just need to stop trying so hard, take a break, find inspiration again. And crucially, it's the support of the community, the kindness she's received, that helps her get through that internal struggle and regain her flight, quite literally.
And that ending line is so perfect. I still get sad, but I love this town.
Right. It's not saying life is perfect now. Sadness still happens, challenges exist, even in a kind world. But those connections, that supportive environment, make it possible to navigate it all. It's a really gentle but profound message about resilience and community.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, we've seen Ghibli films, often using that Kishotenketsu idea, tend to focus more on change, on flow, on internal growth.
Rather than just external conflict and clear-cut heroes versus villains.
Yeah. We get these really complex characters like Lady Boshi or Howl, where motivations are murky, not just good or evil.
And often the antagonist isn't a person, but a system, or rules, or even an internal struggle like Kiki's loss of confidence.
And themes like the power of seeing clearly, like in Mononoke, or the transformative power of acceptance and love, like in Howls, or just fundamental kindness, like in Kiki, come through really strongly.
Yeah, it's a different narrative toolkit, and it lets them explore things about, human nature, our connection to the world, in ways that often stick with you long after you've watched the film.
So here's a final thought for you listening in. How might thinking about stories or even your own life through this lens of change, rather than just conflict, shift your perspective? Are there situations or even people you might have instinctively labeled as villains that could be seen differently, maybe as individuals caught in a system or just going through their own complicated transformation?
Definitely something to mull over, an invitation maybe to try and see with eyes unclouded, as Ashitaka was told, to look for the nuances.
Absolutely. So maybe go back and watch one of these Ghibli films again, see if it hits differently now, which one resonates most. Could this Kishotenketsu apply? Lots to think about. Thanks for joining us.